Now, it's been a typical Pennine winter's day in many ways. We've had bright sunshine, then all of a sudden the clouds have rolled in from Greater Manchester and Lancashire, and it looks like it might rain. It's got very blustery and it's got very cold. I'm just above the village of Holme in the Holme Valley, which marks the edge of the Peak District, one of the UK's most beautiful national parks. Now, the Peak District is home to all kinds of wildlife. Behind me is Black Hill and Holme Moss, just to my right, a ridge that you will all know very, very well if you live in the Huddersfield area. There's all sorts of wildlife around. And did you know that one of those species is the mountain hare? An animal which is incredibly rare in the UK, and we're incredibly lucky to have in this part of the country.
The mountain hare went missing from the British Isles hundreds of years ago, before being reinstated in the Peak District in the late 19th century for sport. Today, the mountain hare can generally be seen in the Scottish Highlands as well as the Peak District. Population numbers in the Peak District are not known entirely due to the fact that the hares themselves live under deep-lying vegetation and under overhanging rocks, which are sometimes difficult to spot them. However, recent estimates suggest there are around 3,500 living in the Peak District. This population number is by no means stable due to human and natural factors affecting the hares. The hares themselves are affected on a regular basis by a nematode, a stomach bug, which kills many of them.
So the climate change modelling suggests that the range of mountain hares is going to decrease, it's going to shrink by 80% over roughly the next 30 years.
The startling reality of population decline for the mountain hares can be attributed to both natural and human causes. One of those human causes is high-lying roads that cross the moorland in the Peak District. Those like up at Holme Moss, but also especially the Snake Pass, where it's estimated that up to 10% of the adult population of mountain hares living in the Peak District could be killed by cars every single year.
Now, people say to me, can we do anything about that? If people actually reduce their speed down to about 30 miles an hour, particularly at evenings or at night when hares come out, just over that 1 kilometre stretch, you'd save 100 hares a year, up to 100 hares a year. And the difference in journey time for people is probably about 20 seconds. It's hardly anything at all.
It's not only roads and cars that pose a challenge to the mountain hare population, but people's deliberate violence against animals.
We have reports of shooting events or hare coursing where people let dogs, lurchers, etc., or greyhounds go out and catch hares. So hunting with dogs is illegal, so the police will get involved. Shooting hares is not legal, so people can shoot hares, and when that happens, it's indiscriminate. A person cannot tell whether a hare is young or old, or male or female, so it just adds to the loss of the population, and it's just unhealthy.
Understanding what's going on in mountain hares' natural habitat is important in working out how we can bolster mountain hare populations. In the Peak District, over the last 100 years, acid rain has eroded many of the characteristic peat bogs there are on the moorland. This is a problem because water has been running downhill into the valleys, meaning that peat has been carried away. Peat is one of Britain's most valuable natural carbon stores, locking it in and stopping it being released into the environment. Now, in 2002, a European-funded project known as Moors for the Future was launched to restore many of these peat bogs by adding wood, stone or plastic barriers to stop water that was in the peat bogs from running downstream. This has been highly effective in increasing the biodiversity of the moorland and has protected many species, including the mountain hare.
So what we now have is a greatly transformed landscape which is holding carbon as we would like. The peat is not washing away, it's staying put much more. And we've now got this wonderful landscape of flowers and plants and trees which mountain hares love to forage upon. And so what we see is, particularly on Bleaklow, we see the highest numbers of mountain hares, where so much of this restoration work has been done by Moors for the Future. But that is a unexpected, lovely consequence of good things that human beings have done.
And just like so many other species of extraordinary plants and animals, the mountain hare is under threat due to human activity, and in particular climate change.
We're heating up the planet because we burn these fossil fuels. So the planet's increasing in temperature. Bleaklow, Black Hill, Home Moss are getting warmer, so there's less snow. Mountain hares are adapted to snow, so they have less competitive advantage. But whether it's mountain hares, which we can see here, or polar bears in the Arctic, or what have you, climate change is here and is badly affecting species around the world.
While the island population of mountain hares in the Peak District certainly faces significant existential threats from nature and human activity, it's not a done deal for the mountain hares that they're going to disappear overnight. Thanks to fantastic human activity by the likes of Moors for the Future and conservation biologists like Dr. Carlos Bedson, we may see the mountain hares on our lovely, beautiful moorland for many, many years, many, many decades and centuries to come. It's easy to think that landscapes like these in the Peak District are untouched by human activity. But if there's one thing you can take from this story and the story of the mountain hare in the Peak District, is that certainly isn't true, and that there are things that we can all do to help.